Hey, welcome to Painter Paint. My name is Ross, and today we'll study the ear. In this video, we'll look at the different parts of the ear to better understand its structure so that we can more easily draw an ear. All right, let's look at an ear. The ear can be challenging to draw because there are several complex shapes within the ear, and everybody's ear looks a little different. Some ears are round or stick out more. Some ears are more cup-shaped, while other ears are flatter. Some have very prominent features, while others, those features are less prominent. As we look around at our friends and family's ears, we can see that there's a lot of variety within ear shapes. However, all this variety is based on the same structures. Though these shapes might appear different from person to person, these structures are all the same. So even though there are many differences within everybody's ears, there are similarities. So what are these structures? They are the helix, the antihelix, the concha, the earlobe, the tragus, and the antitragus. So the four forms that I think are the most important for shaping the ear are the helix, the antihelix, the concha, and the earlobe. So let's look at those first. First, the helix. The helix is the ridge that forms the outer shape of the ear. It is a folded or rolled form that starts just above the ear canal, creates a U-shaped curve that forms the top of the ear, and it ends just above the earlobe at the back. The helix is an important form because it creates the overall silhouette of the upper ear. Next is the antihelix. The antihelix is this Y-shaped or sort of Y-shaped form. Along with the helix, the antihelix helps form or shape the upper part of the ear. The antihelix splits into two smaller forms right before it tucks into the top of the ear under the helix. This creates a small pocket in that area. The bottom of the antihelix rests just above the earlobe. If we inspect the ear closely, we'll notice that the antihelix is the form that connects the concha to the rest of the ear. This makes the antihelix the transitional form between the concha and the helix. Speaking of the concha is the base that all the parts of the ear sit on. It is a cup-shaped structure that creates the pocket or space between the antihelix and the ear canal. It is the form that sits on the head and provides the support needed to push the rest of the ear away from the skull. This is an important structure when drawing an ear from the front view or a back view. From a frontal view, the concha sets up how far forward the ear angles towards the viewer. From a back view, the concha is a predominantly seen feature. Here's a view of the ear from the back. We can see all the forms of the upper ear connect to the concha first, and then the concha is what connects the ear to the head. The final main structure of the ear is the earlobe. We're all likely familiar with this one already. This is the soft bottom part of the ear. This is the one part that is not formed by cartilage. An earlobe can appear attached or unattached at the base. What I mean by this is an attached earlobe does not have any extra flesh hanging below the connection point at the jaw, whereas an unattached earlobe does. The last two structures I want to mention play a smaller role in setting up the ear structure, but they are important. These are the tragus and antitragus. These are the two smaller forms near the ear canal. The tragus sits at the front of the ear, covering the ear canal just a bit. It can be a flat rectangular form or something with a more triangular shape. The antitragus is this little bump that sits on the other side of the concha just above the earlobe. This is a structure that varies widely in how prominent it shows up on the ear, but it is an important one to draw in that it helps us shape the ridge of the pocket of the ear. If you struggle with drawing the ear, one of the problems you might face is understanding how these forms might combine to create the shapes of an ear as seen from different angles. Let's look at an example. In this example, I've drawn an ear in simple forms only. We'll use this example to see how the forms come together by building an ear up from the base of the head. To do that, we'll start with the concha. Here I've drawn the shape of the concha as a bowl to set up where the rest of the forms of the ear will go. If this was part of a larger drawing, I'd use this shape to place the ear on the head. One of the things I should point out is the concha would really take the shape of a bowl cut at an angle as it is flush against the head near the ear canal, but I like to show it as a full bowl because it helps demonstrate the role of the concha as a support structure for the rest of the ear. Next, we add this plate over the bowl representing the concha. This plate just helps us establish the size of the ear and where the parts of the ear will go later on. We want to leave a cutout in that plate so that we can create the pocket within the ear structure that is created by the bowl-shaped concha. Next, we can draw the helix. We want to position it as it's illustrated here against the plate. We want to create it using this U-shaped tube. Even though it's a folded form, thinking of it as a tube or a cylinder actually helps us set up the placement. We can then cut out the part of that tube to show the folds a little bit later on. Now we can draw the antihelix. Being that the antihelix is a form sitting between the helix and the concha, it's a good idea to wait to draw this form until after you've drawn the other two forms. With that plate that we drew earlier, we basically have already set up the earlobe. However, we can refine the shape of the earlobe a little bit more now. When we do this, we can show both the thickness of the earlobe along with how it attaches to the head near the jaw. Finally, we can add the tragus and antitragus to finish drawing the forms. We use the bowl that suggests where the concha is to guide the placement of these forms. One thing I'd like to point out is that we don't have to draw each structure when drawing an ear like I did in this demo, but we should know where each one goes before we start drawing that ear. It's an understanding of how these forms come together that is important. How we draw them and what to include is determined by our goals in the drawing. To give you a better understanding of what I mean by this, let's look at an ear drawn in 3 different styles. So this first example is a drawing designed to show a realistic ear. So drawing all the forms is kind of a necessity. But if we look at this second example, we can see that we may not need to set up all the parts of the ear in simple forms as we draw that ear. This is because we've stylized and simplified that ear in this example. Still, all the parts are suggested here, so we need to know where those structures belong. This last example simplifies things even more. This time we're not even showing or suggesting all the forms of the ear. Yet, knowing where those forms belong helps us shape this type of ear. Though some parts are missing, it still looks like an ear as the key elements are all in the right spots. That is to say, our audience will accept what's missing because what's there looks accurate. Hopefully this helps you with drawing ears. However, before you start drawing ears, I suggest you take a look at a whole bunch of different ears to see if you can't find the structures that we just learned about. You could start with your own ear. Look at your ear in a mirror and then find and identify the different parts of the ear within your own ear. Then once you can identify the parts within your own ear, you can look for those parts in other people's ears. Take a look at your friends and family's ears, find and identify those structures within their ears, and then take note of how the shapes might be different than your own ear. After you can find the forms in your friends and family's ears, you are ready to use this information to draw an ear. Enjoy drawing ears, and if you have any questions about this stuff, please feel free to ask.